Today we're joined by the brilliant Max Materne, founder of Onex, a platform bringing innovation and transparency to the powersports industry. Max's vision is all about modernizing how dealers, manufacturers, and riders connect, making ownership and transactions more efficient in a digital-first world. We explore how Onex is changing the game and how technology is becoming essential to the future of motorcycling.
That's helpful, but I think that the industry, because of that downward slope that we have been seeing that we're still a part of, I think the industry needs solutions that don't come from what we've already been doing.
Right.
They come from recognizing what the future is really going to look like.
That's right.
And so how do you define what a future dealership actually is?
Welcome to the One Gang Worldwide podcast, your ultimate ride into the world of motorcycles. Visit cyclesworldwide.com, where we offer a completely free marketplace for everything motorcycles. Join our One Gang community where you can connect, share info, and swap stories with riders from all over the world. Join for free at cyclesworldwide.com and be a part of the One Gang community right now.
What's going on, One Gang? We've got a great show for you here today. We got Max Materne, co-founder and CEO of Onex and a consultant at Garage Composites. Max, I'm looking forward to this one, brother. Thanks for coming on the show and joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on.
Nice, Max. This is going to be a fun one. We're definitely grateful you joined us. We start out with the Break the Ice section, where we basically go through 10 rapid-fire questions to get to know you a little bit better and loosen the mood. They're not too serious.
Okay. Okay, good.
So have your credit card,
All right.
have your credit card numbers out, because we're going to be going through a few quick
Yeah.
samples.
Great.
All right, you good to
Great.
go?
Yes, go for it. Let's start.
All right, sweet. Question number one, first motorcycle you ever rode?
Ooh, first motorcycle I ever rode was actually wasn't even a motorcycle. It was some Vespa ET2. It was mint green, 2002. And I know that so incredibly well because I still own it. The first one we got when we opened the dealership, and still have it. And just last week, I took my oldest daughter, who's 8, on her very first ride on any two-wheel motorized thing, and it was that.
Man.
So it was nice to continue the
That's
cycle.
killer,
So that's it.
man. Nice.
Was she wide-eyed and loving it?
Oh God, she absolutely fell in love with it. Yeah. So now every day she wants to get a ride around that. So
That's awesome.
pretty fun.
All right, question 2, favorite all-time bike you've owned or sold?
Favorite all-time bike was a 2011 Ducati Hypermotard 1100 Evo.
Nice.
So that was the bike actually when I sold the dealership. That was the bike I needed to own. So one bought it mainly because it's the motorcycles that had scared the absolute crap out of me. There wasn't a lot of bike when you ride every day, all the time, every single super bike that comes out. Not a lot of them scare you much anymore. And that was one where I thought I could kill myself on it. I need to own it. So yeah, my favorite.
Right on.
Great bike.
All right, question 3, go-to alcoholic beverage, and if you don't drink, what's your go-to snack?
My go-to alcoholic beverage is right now just ranch water, tequila soda. I've gone through all the other ones so much that I've killed my taste buds for them, and now the only thing I can have is it.
All right. That's
Right
Only
on.
doesn't make me feel terrible too.
That's right.
Also.
That helps.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
What next?
Better power boost, coffee, Red Bull, or adrenaline?
Ooh, gosh, that's going to be between coffee and adrenaline for sure. I'm not an energy drink guy very much, but yeah, riding a bike into work and doing some things that are maybe not the legal way to get to work. That's the best way
Nice.
to wake me up.
That'll wake you up.
Nice.
All
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
question 5, dream ride destination, no budget, no limits.
Oh man, I'd really love to just ride all the way down through Central and South America. I think that would be a really ideal ride, a really fun one to do. I've been wanting to do it for a long time. I have a lot of customers who've done it because we sell BMWs at this dealership and BMWs. So that'd be the ride.
That's a good one.
Right on. The terrain changes so much too through that. That's got to be an insane ride. All right, what's a skill outside of power sports you are secretly great at?
Spreadsheets.
Spreadsheets. No
I
kidding.
love
Hey,
spreadsheets.
Cycles
Yeah.
Worldwide is hiring, so I don't know what you're doing, but
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually how my business got started, was just being able to be very good at analyzing data through spreadsheets until I needed so much analyzing that I couldn't do it with spreadsheets anymore. We had to build software. So,
Nice. Nice.
yeah, that's what I geek out on.
Spreadsheet skills are underrated.
Hell yeah.
All right, question 7. First concert you ever went to?
Jeez. It's going to be incredibly embarrassing.
It's okay.
To admit this aloud.
You still got your New Kids on the Blog shirt, right? That you bought there at the show?
And I am sorry to say, it was Britney Spears
Wow.
at the New Orleans Superdome.
Hey, man, she's
Concert. Yeah, right?
she's cute, man. I don't like her music, but she'd be all right to watch dance.
It was a great, exciting show, but I was a child. So, yeah. There we go. I'm never going to live that one down. So.
Hey, you heard it here
Nobody
first,
listens to
people.
this episode.
Thanks for being honest.
Exactly. I didn't know we could lie.
Yeah, you could have made
If I
something
knew we could
up.
lie, it's been different.
All right, question 8. If you weren't in the power sports industry, what would you be doing?
Oh my gosh, that is a really tough question. Because I grew up and so I don't really know. When I was a kid, I wanted to be in robotics. I think how stuff works, and I became a Ducati master tech and worked on bikes and worked in the shop. I think that mechanical side of it I've always really loved.
Nice.
I did study mechanical engineering in college, like while I was still working through the shop, and then by the end of that, I was like, well, I'll just become a mechanic. I don't think I needed a mechanical engineering degree to become a mechanic, but
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like you would be an engineer for sure.
yeah. I think engineering. Yeah, my brain's wired for that, so I think engineer. Probably.
Right on. All right, if you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would it be?
Dinner with one person, dead or alive. Gosh, it's good. Probably Einstein.
Einstein. Nice.
Einstein?
Yeah, it's just I've read a lot of stuff about him. Like real biographies and stuff about how he thought and what he did, and it's just the way that he approaches problems and thinks about them and just like ruminates on them for really long periods of time. I do the same thing. I'm not in any way comparing myself.
No, but I understand.
I
understand what you're saying.
But that way of thinking, it really intrigues me, and it's really like how I'll sit on an idea for days and weeks and months until like finally it snaps in my head and suddenly it all comes together.
Gotcha.
So yeah, cool. I think that'd be a good conversation.
Definitely. Puzzle solving is
Yeah.
another underrated skill and so fun and satisfying too. All right, last question. Playlist stuck on one artist. Who are you hoping it is?
I like Anderson .Paak. Big Anderson .Paak
Nice.
fan. He's a really skilled musician and seems like a cool guy. That's the guy I want to have dinner with him and listen to music all the
I
time.
was hoping you'd say Britney Spears,
on.
but Anderson .Paak is good too. So.
Yeah, I evolved. I evolved in my music taste.
All right. All right, brother. You passed the speed round. So
All right.
What's up, One Gang? I used to think that if I spent big money on riding gear with a logo on the back, I was getting top quality. I gave Leather Up a shot. I wasn't sure at first, could I really get quality gear without spending a fortune? But after putting tens of thousands of miles on their jackets and vests, I had my answer. No busted zippers, no loose stitching, just solid, well-made gear that lasts. Leather Up carries trusted brands like Milwaukee Leather, Hot Leathers, and more, with gear for every rider and every budget. Plus, their customer service actually cares and picks up the phone, something rare these days. So do yourself a favor, check out leatherup.com. Whether you need jackets, vests, chaps, boots, helmets, or luggage, they've got you covered. And because you're part of the One Gang Worldwide family, use code CW20 at checkout for 20% off your entire order. Stop overpaying, gear up with Leather Up, and see the difference yourself. Let's get into the early life of young Max. Where did you grow up? What was young Max like with some of your early interests?
So I grew up in New Orleans. My family is from here. We've been here for 300 years. So we have existed in New Orleans since New Orleans was basically a thing. So actually what's funny is what I did before motorcycles, like as a child, because I started doing bikes and motorcycles at 12.
Wow.
That's when we started the dealership and started working on it. So not a lot of like before life necessarily when I wasn't just a little kid. But I will say that my brother and I were singers.
Singers?
So my brother's still a singer.
Really? Nice.
Yeah. So my brother, yeah, he actually still sings in barbershop quartet. Surprisingly,
Cool.
He's like nationally ranked. I think second or third in the world now
No
for
kidding.
barbershop quartet, which is like a really interesting niche.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So he does that, and I sang as well, and we did musicals and all that kind of stuff. And that's actually we were traveling around on a tour, and we were in Italy singing at the Vatican. And when we were there, my parents, my mom really saw Vespas everywhere and was like, "Oh, we should sell Vespas in New Orleans." And that's how we got into this. So it was like,
No way.
it was like singing and like musical theater performance into like, and now we're motorcycle.
That is
So,
crazy.
Very
That's how it
interesting. Yeah. Weird transition.
Yeah.
We didn't grow up as motorcycles. Like what's funny is first Vespa that I told you about at the beginning, that green ET2, that was the first Vespa we ever saw up close. And that was with 12 other Vespas that all got delivered at the same time. So it was literally like we weren't motorcyclists. We weren't in the industry. We had ever stepped foot in a dealership before. And all of a sudden my mom decided, let's become a dealer. And we ordered a bunch of Vespas, and like overnight we were somehow doing this.
That's amazing.
So-
So the family business started with scooters, not motorcycles, but scooters.
It started as the Vespa dealership of New Orleans.
Killer. Wow.
Yeah.
What year ballpark was that when you guys were over
That
at
was-
the Vatican?
Oh, that would have been in probably 99.
Okay. So right around when
1999.
Vespas were starting to blow up.
Yeah,
I
right.
guess
It was
trends.
right when Vespa was about to come back to the US. They were here previously, they had left the US, and the timing aligned where, reaching out to Piaggio and saying, "Hey, I want to sell Vespas in New Orleans." They were like, "Okay." Like,
Nice.
becoming a dealer was that easy, So,
Man.
so yeah.
Perfect timing.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
we actually opened the doors of our store in 2002. So there was a couple of years there of like my parents getting it all ready and getting the thing started.
Sure.
Yeah. And then eventually it ended up becoming my brother and I running it. That's cool.
That's what a wild origin story, man. So tell us about your early school. You mentioned your engineering degree. Tell us about schooling and then what you did as far as your career in the early days.
So, schooling, I mean, going to schools in New Orleans, nobody would know any of them. If you're from New Orleans, you usually, and you meet someone else from New Orleans and you're in another spot, usually the first thing you ask the other person is, where'd you go to high school? It's like the indication of like what group you hung out with and
Gotcha.
like what part of town you're in. So I went to a place called Brother Martin, if any New Orleanians are listening. From there, I went to University of New Orleans. So didn't go far. I had aspirations of going to vehicle design schools. And Pasadena College of Art and Design was actually like where I was planning on going, but the shop just didn't happen. The reason, or the shop was happening, so I ended up not doing that. Decided to stay with the store and grow with it. And actually, as an aside, the reason why I was into vehicle design was that there was a moment in our evolution of the dealership when we started bringing on motorcycles. And when we started doing that, I realized like I need to know more about motorcycles if I'm going to be like the guy running the service department of motorcycle. So I found a motorcycle manufacturer in New Orleans called Confederate. It's now called
Yankee.
gosh, why can I not think of the name?
Confederate motorcycle. Hey,
It should be.
Confederate
Yeah,
was in
Confederate
New
motorcycle.
Orleans. I thought they started in Alabama.
Yeah. No, they started in New Orleans originally, actually just down the street from where this dealership is
Wow.
now.
They made those.
And now
They
they're
made
called
those
Curtis,
real
Curtis Motorcycles.
crazy high-priced bikes, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember those, man.
Crazy
Yeah,
motorcycles.
and they were
Yep.
super
Yeah,
expensive.
actually, so they were. And so, actually, funny enough, one of their like really wild bikes is called the Wraith.
Yep.
And the Wraith is kind of this, the chassis is this kind of ACO of aluminum that fits everything inside of this big carbon fiber backbone. What's funny is when I went and joined them, I became really good friends with the lead designer, a guy named JT Nesbitt. And I became his like assistant and helped him design and build out the first Wraith.
Wow.
And so that whole process like got me into motorcycling. And actually I talk about it a lot when I'm working with stores about how like my first experience working on a motorcycle and not just a scooter was in a company where they're charging these crazy prices for these incredible custom motorcycles. They're going to celebrities. It's like, it's all really, really high end stuff. And the attention to detail was insane. You know, if you could tell that a bolt was installed by a socket, like if there was any mark on it, like it didn't just like appear in that spot, it had to be replaced. Every single, like one thing that still sticks with me when I'm building IKEA furniture, it's like, I have to make sure the direction of the washer is accurate every time I put it onto a vehicle because like, or on anything, because that was like absolutely drilled in my head from the very beginning there.
Detail.
So working with JT, I started doing vehicle design. And so a total different side of my life was actually designing and building with JT a Bonneville felt flat car. So we raced that for the World Landscape Record. She drove it from New Orleans to Bonneville. And then another one, which is really cool, is I was the like electrical lead. There's only two of us. It was me and JT that built a car from scratch that ran on compressed natural gas. It's called the Magnolia Special. If you ever look up the Bienville Studios Magnolia Special, JT and I built that. Everything's hand-formed aluminum, fan caps aluminum. We shipped it up to New York and we drove it on compressed natural gas from New York to LA in 89 hours. And we set the record for alternative energy cross country. And so we're on Jay Leno's Garage. There's a Jay Leno's episode about it.
Yeah.
That's sick.
But yeah, that was like building cars and motorcycles and like that side of it was like kind of this passion that I really wanted to take on. And then I thought to myself, okay, is it better to go to school to do this thing to end up like, you know, working a desk at a Toyota plant, or should I stick with this dealership, grow the dealership and go the motorcycle design way? Like what would that lead to? And so, you know, as a kid, that was the decision. I'm like, why do I stay in New Orleans or do this? And so I mentioned, I should correct my statement. I don't have an engineering degree. I'm 12 hours short of my engineering degree because so 3.5, 4 years of like studying engineering, getting through the program. One of the courses that I signed up for was a management course. And at the time I was running this store. And so I had a situation going on with one of my employees where he moved here because of his wife's job and she was leaving him and he didn't want to be here anymore, but he was my parts manager and wasn't doing his job. And so I'm like, how do I handle this sticky situation?
Right.
Like, I understand where he's at. I empathize the situation he's in, but like, he's not working. Like, I'm just seeing him like just scroll on Facebook all day and not do the things he needs to. So like, how do I handle it? So I go to my professor and I ask them, hey, so this is the situation. What should I do? What are some options? And their response was, have you looked in the book yet? And I was like, that's it. Like I am trying to learn how to manage people and run a business. And you've never done it before. I have no advice for me, no guidance. And so at that point I was so pissed off. I was like, why am I sitting here like trying to learn for other people when I could just be in there doing it, like learning from my own experiences? And so I regret walking out with 12 hours left.
Listen, let me tell you something. I mean, I get what you're saying as far as not finishing up those 12 hours, but the engineering experience and the hands-on you got with JT and working on the side-by-side type of stuff, especially if anybody looks up Confederate motorcycles, you guys will understand that it's not just a motorcycle. So to be able to do engineering design work with that and learning hands-on by somebody who's actually probably smarter than this damn professor that's telling you to go look in the book. Yeah, I think you passed with flying colors. So, man, don't even
I
search
agree.
it.
I mean,
Hey, wanted to ask.
I definitely learned
go
more
ahead, sorry.
doing.
I wanted to ask you a
Absolutely.
question.
I'm just saying,
Your family started the Vespa business. You guys kind of walked into this. You know, your parents had the idea. It took a couple of years to get going. When you were working at the shop in your earlier roles, what was some of your earlier roles before you and your brother took over officially?
Yeah. So I was always the service guy. The kind of like when we first got the dealership, we just kind of drew straws, and I drew the short one. I drew the service guy. I mean, granted, I liked doing the service stuff. I liked working on things. My brother became the sales guy. I became the guy that fixed it.
Gotcha.
And so from the very, very beginning, you know, I was still in high school when it all started. So I would be in school and then come back and be the porter. You know, I'd sweep floors and pull stuff out and started, you know, working on Vespas, changing oil, changing belts, changing tires. And I learned under a bunch of technicians, you know, a bunch of guys that we would hire on, and some of them were absolute criminals. So I learned a lot of that stuff too.
I ran a service and
one
repair
guy was-
shop, so I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. One guy was actively delivering weed to his customers in our customers' festivals. I can say that now because like
Gosh.
yeah. So that was my first experience. Was just like learning to be a tech. And then I became a tech. Actually, I think I was at the time, I might not be anymore, but I was the youngest certified Piaggio Vespa technician in the country. I don't know if that's still the case, but you know, I'm like,
How
12
old are
years
you
old.
at this
I
point?
was like a certified tech.
You are 12 years
12,
old?
13.
Shit.
Yeah, when we first started.
That's crazy.
Yeah. When we first started, and then and I did that. We had Vespa until 2010. So it was Vespa for a couple of years, for, you know, 4 or 5 years. We were just Vespa.
That's crazy.
And then Katrina happened, and that threw a whole wrench in the whole thing, which we're at the 20-year anniversary of Katrina. So Katrina's talked about everywhere now.
Did your shop
that's
get
crazy.
messed
That's
up?
20 years.
And where you guys live?
Mm-hmm.
It did, huh?
Yeah, we were in mid-city. So New Orleans is like a bowl,
Yeah.
right? You've got these levees on either side, and there's just a bowl right in the middle. So we were in mid-city, which is like the middle of the bowl. So we had bought this building we're in now, which is downtown. We're right by the Superdome here. But in our old dealership, we were right next to this bayou called Bayou St. John. That's like right in the middle of the city. But we left. We had moved all the Vespas out. Actually, funny enough, we had landed a contract with the New Orleans police. And, you know, if you ever watched a Katrina documentary, you'll understand how corrupt it all was back then.
Mm-hmm.
So we landed the contract. And so the French Quarter police were all riding Vespa. And so I had a police badge. At this point, I'm 16 years old.
Yeah.
Like
Jeez.
we had police lights in all our vehicles. It was Wild Wild West over here. So anyway, Katrina was coming to us, and we called up the cops and said, "Hey, can you send people to ride Vespas into like the building?" So we brought them all to a high-rise building downtown. We saved all the major unit inventory. But
Nice.
when the storm came, it flooded, and then it got looted. Like somebody ripped the side of the building off, and everything that didn't get flooded got stolen.
Wow.
But yeah, so we ended up setting up shop in Baton Rouge and opening up a shop there. And here's the crazy part too. When we bought this building, we were approached by HGTV to do a documentary, like a show on called Opening Soon by Design. So it's about the design of the retail space and the build out of the retail space. And so they had started filming before Katrina came. And then Katrina happened, and the film crew moved in with us. I'm like, we're living with us in Baton Rouge. And so there's this whole like a documentary about like that part of our life.
Crazy.
And so anyway, I know, right? It was pretty wild. So you could see me as a child yet again doing ridiculous things. So we end up opening the store in Baton Rouge. We run that for a while. At some point we were running the New Orleans, so we opened this one up finally when the city was back open. We were running both of them at the same time, and then we shut down the Baton Rouge and then focused on it. And then that was, you know, once that happened, that was really the catalyst for my mom to say, I don't want to be the person running this day to day anymore. And like, I'm burnt out.
Right.
Like, I don't want to do Vestas anymore. So that's when my brother and I took over. And that's when we brought on motorcycles. Cause we did a lot of market research and we determined that chicks dig motorcycles more than scooters. And so therefore we got to bring in motorcycles.
That's so funny.
Takes lots of research to determine that one.
Exactly.
That's so funny.
Exactly.
We were gonna do a scooter.
Yeah,
we were
right,
gonna do
number
our
one.
only scooter podcast, but we decided that chicks do dig motorcycles a lot more than scooters.
Exactly.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Man, Max, in those early years, Baton Rouge, moving the store, what were those years? What were they like? And what did you learn about customer relationships and employee relations that still sticks with you from those early years?
Man, that's tough. And what's funny is, I wouldn't even call it learning something necessarily. I'm sure that's what it would be considered, but the need to make sure your customers are happy and the need to make sure that like the business is profitable it wasn't necessarily learned. It was like ingrained in me, because I'm sure anyone who has been a part of a family dealership, which is a lot of people who grew up in the store, the success of the dealership, it doesn't just feel like, oh, it's a business. It is your family.
That's right.
Like it is, if I don't make payroll, the world ends. Like it's just open.
Right.
Like if we don't keep
Right.
this thing open,
That's
my
pressure,
entire
man.
family is homeless. Now that pressure doesn't, like, looking back on it, I realized like the pressure wasn't real. Like it wasn't, like we could have still made, there was other things. Like worst case scenario, we weren't going to lose everything. But as a child and growing up in this, like it was life or death the entire time. And so it's more probably what I've needed to unlearn from those experiences. But I do feel like being back in the store right now, which we'll get into the details of all that, but like stepping back into the store now, having not been in a store for 6 years, having consulted for 6 years and worked with all these other dealerships, coming back in, I realized that I still have that drive of like, oh, this shit's got to get there.
Right.
Like this is 100% what has to happen, how it's going to happen. Here's the structure we're going to do it in. Like that is still there in the same like fire that's inside of me. But the like emotional roller coaster that would cause before of an expediter for a technician goes and crashes one of the customer's bikes, like that would have ruined my day and turned things totally upside down. My whole week would have been shot. Now those things are just like, oh, it's like, I get that that's just another hurdle. This is how it's making me feel. This is how it's affecting other people around them. But the way that I react to it and the way that I handle the situation can completely change how everything around me reacts to it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I feel like that was a learning, like I had to go through this like tumultuous dealership growing experience to realize like the bad effects that some of that stuff has, but it created this like tremendous amount of drive of, I know how to fix it, so I'm going to make it.
Right. Hey, you ran the dealership for 17 years. And what point did you start thinking about selling it? And why was it time for you personally for the next chapter?
Yeah. It wasn't just me, obviously. It was still, my brother was running front of house, but he was like the general sales manager. My mom was still technically the dealer principal. My dad was still the accountant. Like the whole family was still very much involved in it. So much so that we lived, well, I had moved out, but we lived above the dealership. Like, wow, we were in it all the time. So at some point, it grows and grows and grows. And it felt really, really hard. And it was starting to take a big toll on our family. My brother had 2 kids. I had just had my second kid when we sold the shop. And it was just like, I mean, the dedication that goes into running a dealership, it is an everyday
grind
experience. Like it is constant every day of the week. And so that grind was it was taking its toll on every single person in my family. My dad had this crazy cancer popping up that like they couldn't figure out why. I'm certain it's all stress related. My mom was having all these like really bad like skin problems that were all stress related. She was having like nails fall out like crazy, crazy stuff. So it was just just the stress of running a store and like that being our entire existence for those almost 2 decades was just like, we gotta call it.
And for you, sorry
so-
to cut you off, Max, and for you too, because you're at a young age at this point in time, so it's probably not
100%.
affecting you as much as the parents, right? So, or was
Physically, it was not. Physically it was not, but man, I can tell you what, my wife was not happy with me at any of that time. 2 young kids at home, but I'm spending all the time at the shop.
7
All I
days a
care
week,
about is making the store and work. Not that. Yeah, it's just like it's transitioning from my life being entirely focused on the success of this business into like, oh shit, I got a family now, and like, how do I juggle the 2 of them? And I didn't feel at that time that I was capable of juggling both of them effectively. Like if I'm gonna truly be like the husband and father that I want to be, I can't be gone every weekend, every day, not dropping them off at school, not picking them up at school. And so that was a really big driving factor. There's also the factor that, I was a Garage Composites client. Well, sorry, let me take that back. I was a client of Sam Dantzler for, over a decade. And I say Sam Dantzler because he hadn't formed Garage Composites, but he was my moderator in a 20 club. And so I knew what was happening nationally because I'm looking at national averages. I'm talking to him. I'm talking to other dealers. We knew what was taking place. And I had noticed that the years leading up to COVID, we sold in October of 2019, like right before everything, both the shit hit the fan and the industry exploded in a positive way. And so before that happened, though, like if you looked at national averages of just net profitability, dealerships were struggling more and more and more and more every single year.
Big time.
And so it was getting harder. It was getting more stressful. Like it was just like this pressure cooker that was taking place. And we realized we got to figure out a strategy to get out of it. And so we made a plan. I think, looking back on it, I wish we had done, we had planned it more effectively, but we effectively made a plan to bring in a brand that has more blue sky, a more valuable brand to elevate the store's value and then sell the store. And that brand was BMW.
BMW. Okay.
Gotcha.
So you guys became BMW of New Orleans. Oh, that's cool.
We were in 2007. In 2007, we became Triumph. We brought on Ducati in 2009.
Wow.
Then we brought on BMW in 2000, and it was still in 17 or 8. We brought on BMW, and then we got all that situated and sorted, and then we sold the dealership.
Nice.
Gotcha. Looking back, and this is a 2-part question, what are the biggest lessons or even regrets that you learned? You mentioned you wish you'd planned it better, but stepping. Hey guys, the show will be back in 1 minute right after a word from our sponsor.
Hey, One Gang, tired of feeling like your butt's taking more of a beating than your bike on those long rides? Introducing Butt Buffer, the ultimate solution to saddle soreness. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. These cushions are made from medical-grade viscoelastic polymer, scientifically crafted to eliminate pressure points and keep your circulation flowing. No more numb nuts or numb butts. And here's the best part. Butt Buffer cushions are made right here in the US for the last 30 years. From Harleys to Hondas, we've got a cushion to fit your ride perfectly. Plus, with styles ranging from sleek pebble polymer to luxurious sheepskin, there's a Butt Buffer for every rider's style. Get your Butt Buffer today at buttbuffer.com. That's buttbuffer.com. Your butt will thank you, and you'll ride longer and happier. We've got your butt covered.
Away from that whole process, and then how did that transition shape your next career steps?
Okay. This is a good question because I literally wrote an article about this for Powersports Business, so I know exactly what I'm going to say. My first biggest regret was allowing cancer to exist in my organization. I had what I call now is a sacred bull, like the employee who I was scared to get rid of because they were valuable. They were a technician who billed a crap ton of hours, but they were a cultural drain. They just were cancerous. I really like the guy. Like he's a really fun, cool guy to hang out with, but he's just an emotional roller coaster and would create these situations in the shop that would just like, I had so many people come to me and quit because they couldn't work with him. But then I would go, okay, so you bill this many hours. I wouldn't say it to them, but you bill this many hours. He billed this many hours. So I go, sorry, you got to go. And I'm sure that affected the stress that was on me and the rest of my family.
Sure.
It affected the team that I had. It affected the culture that ultimately led over to cutthroat base. So I regret not cutting out the cancer sooner, because the guys who bought my store fired that guy immediately because they realized it was cancer. And all the other technicians were suddenly able to pick up more hours and cover for them. So it was like I had tortured myself for a long time on that. That's number one. And I carry that with me now of like, cut out the cancer. But the most important thing is making sure the culture is good, because if I get a good culture in the store, then we make anything happen. So that's a big one. The second one was not getting an appraisal of my business before the sale. Like, so when I said planning, I mean, like, we had an idea of, okay, we're going to bring this brand. It's going to make it more valuable. We're going to make these moves. Like, we're going to move forward. What we didn't do is go to a broker and say, what is this thing worth? So they can go, oh, it's worth $1 million. We go, that's like a tenth of what I was hoping you would say.
Mm-hmm.
What will get us to be $10 million? Or like, whatever those numbers are.
Right.
We never did that. So when it got to the point of selling, we were blindsided by, oh, it's not worth anything. It's worth like furniture, fixtures, like FF&E. Like, there's a dealership is not this incredibly valuable product because there's not this huge multiple when you're buying it. And so to go in not necessarily recognizing what we're going to walk out with, and having these like expectations of grandeur, just was a little. It was like we could have made it more valuable if we knew 2 or 3 years ago we were making these moves, like exactly what was going to show up as value, not just what we thought was value, but what is a buyer going to be interested in. So that's my second one. And then my third one was just the timing of the sale. We sold it right before COVID, and so being a consultant in the industry and being like, oh shit, like COVID starting, I'm gonna start figuring out like what needs to happen because clearly this is bad. And then all of a sudden, the industry like take off and realizing, shit, I got off the ride a little bit too soon. Right. But granted, I say that as a regret.
It was a quick high anyway.
Consulting career.
Hey, it was a quick COVID was a quick high, and that's all it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a temporary high, and then it went away, and the industry settled right back to where it was.
Exactly. You know, like I said, like I feel like looking back on this, that's 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019 net profits. And I'm watching them go down, and I was like, shit, we got to pull the ripcord now. We get out, and there's this save, and all it was COVID just kind of plastered over all the cracks that were already in the industry. That were already like, there's clearly a problem. There's a reason why we're becoming less and less profitable. There's a reason why stores are closing. And look at the dealerships now. Dealerships closing all over the country, like in mass. And it's not because we just screwed ourselves during COVID. We just ordered too much. It was because there was a systemic problem, and then COVID covered it up, and then we're back to the same systemic problem we had before.
Yep. Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Great point on the cancer part. I think that is so important. I relate with you. I had the same situation in my shop where I was trying to build a business bigger, right? And I took myself out of the shop and kind of started concentrating on different avenues to bring the business out. And I knew I had a cancer in the service department, right? At one of the mechanics, he was good. He was billing a lot of hours. So it was keeping the business afloat while I was out of it doing other things for the business on the next level. And I knew in my heart I should have fired him a long time ago, but I overlooked it for the sake of the business itself. And then the cancer spread so much that I'm telling you, I didn't sleep for a couple of years. I was always like in regret of not taking more action, you know? So I love that you covered that. That is so important for any small businesses out there, man. If you got a cancer, you cut it out. Don't give a shit how much it's building. You get it the hell out. You'll find something better. You may take a little bit of a pain and suffering for a little bit, but it's going to do a lot better when that cancer is out. So excellent call on that, Max.
Completely agree.
Hey,
completely agreed.
So you sell the business, you get into consulting now. Take us a little bit into how you got involved with Garage Composites.
Yeah, so it's funny. I would go to these 20 clubs, And 20 clubs 10 years ago barely ever talked about fixed operations, barely talked about this service department, parts department. It was all meetings about how do we sell more units? How do we sell more F&I dollars? Like that was the focus, which, the money's in the metal is the conversation they always have. Right. And to show up to a 20 club meeting, it's usually me and my brother showing up to these. My brother leaves with a ton of phenomenal information, all these great tools. And I'm like, hey guys, any advice on this like dumpster fire I'm dealing with? And not really. So what I would do is I would take all the things that I was learning from how do you sell F&I products effectively, the psychology of that, the psychology of selling on Foursquare and building relationships and how important relationships are and building trust for the major unit purchase. And so I was taking a lot of those ideas and saying, okay, how do I retool this so that I can use it in the service department? So I took the Foursquare selling and turned it into a process we call YMCA, which is why the customer came in, mandatory items, convenient items, and accessory items. And then we kind of like go through how do you overcome objections with that? And so we built these structures. And then I started building new staffing models based on like, okay, the math of a service department means I need to make proficiency higher, which will increase my profitability. So how do I make that better? Well, I need a role that will help my technicians and not be billable, but like they need to make my technician above 100%. And that's how, so like I started doing all this spreadsheet process design. Yeah, spreadsheet, exactly. I love spreadsheets. So all this process design, and I would come back to my store and I would change all sorts of shit. Not get rid of the cancer. That was unfortunate, but I would make totally new roles. I would introduce new ideas. Like every 20 club meeting I'd come back from, which would be, 4 times a year. I'm sure the staff would not be looking forward to it because I would come back with like seminar breath and I would just change every single thing we possibly could. Everybody's got new pay plans. Everybody's got new job descriptions. It's like, we're trying new shit. And man, a lot of it failed. Like a ton of it didn't work, but some of it was like totally revolutionary and it stuck and it worked and the team was on board. And so I would take that information and go to my next 20 club meeting and be like, check it out. I did this thing. This is the job description. Hand them around. This is the result that it created. And so Sam Dancer, as my moderator, was like watching me do these things, being like, hey, you'd be good at this job. So, there was a time I went through this program called 10,000 Small Businesses with Goldman Sachs. And it was like you get like an associate's degree in like business management from Goldman Sachs. And so anyway, I had gone through that. And during most of that time, I was learning things that I had already learned from Sam. Like Sam has been my mentor my entire career. And so I've learned those things from him already. So I spent a lot of the time helping other businesses put some of these things in place. And these were, restaurants and cleaning services and like a cell phone tower installation company, like all that. So it's crazy that these things still worked in these different businesses. And I had so much fun doing it that I called up Sam one day and I said, hey, one day when I'm old like you, I think I might want to be a consultant. Like this is actually really fun. And it just so happened that right at that same time, he had started talking with Tony Gonzalez and they were just putting together Garage Composites at that point.
That's the tight end, right? The Hall of Fame tight end?
Yeah, no, different one. No, not that Tony Gonzalez.
All right.
Not the Falcon.
He was a fireman.
Oh, got it. All right.
Tony Gonzalez was
I was like, okay.
a fireman. And yeah, he was a fire chief in Denver who actually used to work for Ed Lemko. And so like Sam and Tony had worked together helping stores previously. And that was the idea of like, let's get the band back together. So as they were doing that, I happened to reach out right at the right time. And they were launching their first service management academy. So Sam basically told me, hey, can you come speak at the service management academy? Just like do a session. Like, okay, so how long do I need to talk? He's like an hour. So I show up to this meeting. It's a 2 or 3 day meeting. They're 3 days now, but like the 2 day meeting maybe, where I started off, like, the guy who's leading it goes, hey, it's not Sam or Tony. It's another guy they had hired. I'm going to keep his name out of it for this one. But he goes, hey, I don't really have much of a plan. Can you start this off today? I'm like, you don't have a plan. I'm supposed to talk for like an hour. Like, hopefully you figure out a plan in the hour I'm talking. And so I start this process of, it's me and 12 other service managers. And so my whole plan was, let's get together and talk about what a service process looks like from the repair order standpoint. So I'd handed out stacks of Post-it notes to all these managers. And I had them write down, like I got them in groups and I said, write down 15 to 20 steps of a repair order from when you initially contact the customer all the way through the customer has the unit back. Like, where does it go? What does it do? How do you dispatch work? All that stuff. And we're going to write these on little Post-it notes and then we're going to organize. So everybody writes out these Post-it notes. We got them all over the place. And I go up to the whiteboard and I write down, I ask them like, okay, tell me what roles you have inside your store. And most everybody, especially at that time, we're talking advisors and technicians. And then there's a service manager, the guy who's sitting here in the office in the meeting with me. And so we spent time then going through each one and saying, who's responsible for this step? And who's responsible for this step and this step? And we put them up on the board and the service advisor list is like down the wall, across the floor. Wow. It's insane. And the technicians was like, hey, fix the bike, like do the thing that we expected. And it's not to say that technicians aren't busy and technicians are doing stuff. They absolutely are. But the responsibilities required for the management of the repair of that entire thing is entirely on the advisor's shoulders. And it's not like we plan the 1 hour service that a technician is going to have. And we'd say that technician is doing this for this hour. And so when you're an advisor, you've got all this crap you got to do for every customer that just drops in and shows up. And so they get so overwhelmed that the experience, both to the customer and the assistance that happens to the technician, is a problem. So they become the bottleneck of service. And that was like the first, as you could probably tell, I'm passionate as hell about fixing that particular problem because it was a problem I always dealt with. And so for the first time, I'm sitting in a room with 12 other guys who know exactly what I'm talking about. And like, we're one gang. Right. We're one group. We all know the exact same problem. We're all going to work on the same problem together. And we then sat there for 2 days and worked out the problem. And so like the other guy didn't need to really talk at all. It was like, okay, shit, let's just work on the problem. Nice. And that started my career being a consultant. And I was like, this is the coolest shit I've ever done. Yeah. And yeah, that's where I'm at now.
Solving puzzles. That's so cool.
Exactly.
How did working with hundreds of dealerships across the country teach you, or what did they teach you that you couldn't have learned from doing it on your own?
I think the thing that I learned was that I wasn't alone in the struggles that I was having in the store. Everything that I did, I always thought there's got to be a better way than what I'm doing. Like there's got to be something that I just haven't learned about yet, or I haven't read enough about. Like there's something I'm doing wrong. And so I'm just winging it. And so the entire time I always felt like I'm winging this shit. Right. And I am like barely figuring it out, but like I'm scraping by. And then as I started meeting with more and more dealer operators and more service managers and dealer principals, I realized we're all winging it.
You started
everybody's
patterns.
Just, yeah. And so the pattern was, we don't actually have the things that we need. Like we're not paying attention to the things that are important, but how, that little voice in the back of my head of like, you don't know enough yet, has still been happening this entire time through consulting. And so that's what turned the last 3 years. I partnered up with a really great friend of mine who was an employee of mine for a while, also opened his own shop. And we started trying to figure out like, okay, how do we study more of what's in the store to really get to the root of the problem and start fixing the root of the problem, which sounds like, how can we boil the ocean?
Right.
And so we started doing that. And that's, so it turned from like, hey, I'm going to help stores by sharing the stories that I've had from my experiences, from the experiences I've worked with, from the tools that we've developed based on those experiences. And then the last 3 years have been, okay, we're working with historical information to determine what to do next, which is good. That's helpful. But I think that the industry, because of that downward slope that we have been seeing that we're still a part of, I think the industry needs solutions that don't come from what we've already been doing. Right. They come from recognizing what the future is really going to look like.
That's right.
And so how do you define what a future dealership actually is? And that's been our mission now. Awesome. It's like, okay, if you could start from scratch, what would you do?
That's right.
And how would you engage?
That's cool, man. So is that how Onex was found? Is that
100%.
So the exact moment conversation that made you say we have to start this company transpired through everything that you just talked about?
Yep, absolutely.
Wow.
There was actually a moment where I was sitting with here's the inflection point. My buddy Danny French is his name. He was my parts manager. He, like, right out of college, he came and worked for me to learn how to run a dealership. From the very beginning, he said, I'm going to work for you for a year to learn how to run an OEM dealership. And then I'm going to open my own dealership in Gulfport.
That's cool.
And I was like, cool. All right. Like, let's do this shit. I had somebody who was like a thinking partner as we went through this. Like, hey, if you're going to do it this way instead. And so he went out and opened a store, ran it for a decade. It was an independent shop, not an OEM store. So he goes out and starts his own store, runs it for a decade, does a great job. And then he's at that inflection point that I'm at where he starts having kids. And he's like, oh shit, I've got kids. This is a lot harder when I've got a young family that I got to raise and I'm running like my other baby, this dealership. And so he reached out to me and said, hey, should I open a second location and start scaling this so that I can start stepping away, or should I close it or sell it? And like, looking back on it now, you're like, well, that first option's not actually an option. I guess it to be twice the work.
Right.
Like, dude, don't do that.
You ain't
like,
stepping away
it.
anytime soon.
And no. So, and it was a hard conversation. He knew what the answer was, but it was like, man, do you want to spend time focusing on your new baby of a second dealership or your new baby of an actual human being you're gonna like raise? And so at that point, he was like, all right, I'm going to close it. If I'm closing it, what do I do? And first of all, why don't we answer that question that we've been asking ourselves? Like, what does the future dealership look like? And so what's nice is, I've been able to grow proud, like a group of dealers and operators and manufacturers who think like I do. Like, not everybody thinks like me, and I get that, but like the ones that do, that we like perfectly align, I followed them all. And I said, hey guys, I'm going to host a meeting in New Orleans. I don't have an agenda. I don't know what it's going to be about, but I'm inviting like the smartest guys that I know that I've worked with before, all in one room. I'm renting a room in Hilton. We're going to spend a couple hours or a couple days there. I can promise you'll have good conversations, and I can promise you eat well. And so that happened, and everybody I called said yes.
Nice.
And that's when we realized, like, oh shit, there's a thing here. There's like a thing we can do. And so that first meeting that we had, a couple manufacturers, a couple suppliers, actually a lot of these guys have become partners of mine ever since. And we hosted this meeting where we basically talked about, let's focus not on what's going to make a dealership more profitable. That's going to be the outcome. Mm-hmm. Let's focus on the process from the customer experience. Like, if I think back on the building of that first service management academy, when it was, okay, let's look at one payroll and the experience that creates, all the touch points along the way. Kind of that same concept, but instead saying, okay, let's think about one buyer, like one customer, and what does their life cycle look like? And what does their experience look like before they step into the store? And how do we engage with that? How do we engage them when they come in? How do we maintain their life cycle? How do we get them into the next one? And so that's what the conversation was. And at the end of the 2 days of meetings, it was like, okay, well, I guess we just got to start figuring it out and researching. Right. So we partnered with a bunch of the dealer groups that showed up. We started pulling a tremendous amount of data out of their systems, and we started mapping customer life cycle. And when we started doing that, we started finding these trends of like, oh shit, people trade at 3.3 years. Why would they trade at 3.3 years? And then let's go into financing details. Okay, well, customers are primarily financing at 60 months, 5 years. So 3.3 years is 40 months. So then we look at their equity at that particular moment. Right. And in most cases, the customer has 20% equity of their original purchase price as equity. So now if they traded, they can keep their monthly payment the same. And so once we started figuring out these like really important building blocks of what a life cycle could look like, we started filling in all the pieces, say, okay, so the goal is we got to keep the customer with the store for 3.3 years. How would you make a customer feel, not just like you're a place to do business with, but you're the community hub for 3.3 years until they buy their next one. And then 3.3 years, we're working with them at the community hub. And so that became our mission. And it's been probably 3.3 years for us building this mission. And now I'm actually doing it, like ground up, doing it in this store and starting to like train it and get the tools into other stores.
Right.
Yeah. The value
Yep.
of actionable data, man.
Mhm.
It's so important. And leading into the next question, I'm sure that you've touched on the origin story of this, but can you go into the delve analysis and how
Yeah.
that came about, what that is, and what that's morphed into?
Yeah. So when we first started that meeting where we had all these dealer groups, everybody show up, one of the dealer groups we worked with was actually a marine dealership called the Boathouse. And those guys have 14 dealerships around the country. And they agreed to like pay our expenses. And I said, look, we think what you're doing is cool. We'll pay your expenses. You guys come out and study us. Like study what it is, take all of our data. And so what we realized was you can't study just one thing in it, like on its own. Like I love 20 clubs, right? I love the meetings. I love the numbers we look at, the composites. I think it's a phenomenal way to measure the store. But in reality, there's other moving pieces that are impacting those numbers that we're talking about in a room, but we're not actually measuring. You know, if you've ever been, have you guys ever been in a 20 club meeting?
No.
No.
It's 15 other dealers from around the country, guys that are also owning and operating and running their own stores. It's a great community to get together. But, you know, people aren't going to tell you the bad news. They're mostly going to talk about all the great things they do. And they're going to, you know, like pump the chest up. I'm the best person that does this thing. But then, of course, at some point, you got to show your numbers and you got to prove that you can actually pull that thing off. And so, like, it's intimidating. It can be embarrassing. It can be overwhelming. I've seen dealers cry in these meetings. Like, it is an intense thing. So you become really, really close with those guys. Like, those are your advisors.
So support network.
Oh yeah. I mean, I worked with the same guys for a decade. I've been at every one of their weddings. They've been at my wedding. Like, it's like you are right. But you got to think, like, when I'm asking you, hey man, how the hell did you get your shop proficiency to this? Or how the hell did you get your F&I dollars per unit sold? How do you get them to this? And they tell you these stories. Some of that is true. Some of it is bad numbers they put in. Some of it is total bullshit. You're going off of stories and something that you can't necessarily say, this creates this. And so the delve analysis was our attempt to say, you know what, we're going to go into the store and we're going to understand every single thing we possibly can. And we're going to take all of that data. And that way, a year from now, we're going to go, oh shit, is there a correlation between the square footage of the service department and the customer satisfaction? I need to be able to go into every store and then historically go back to that data and see if there was one.
Yeah.
So the delve analysis was basically, we got 14 dealerships to start with. It was 14 or 12. I don't know. There was 14. We have 14 dealerships to start with. We're going to fly to those stores. We're going to spend 2 days in each location. We're going to interview every single person on their staff. We're going to LiDAR scan their entire location. So we 3D models of every single store. We map the layouts. We map their processes. We do a full study of their customer base. So that's the ELV of Delve. So Delve stands for Dealership Enthusiast Lifecycle Value. ELV stands for Enthusiast Lifecycle Value. So that's our way of studying the profitability a customer generates over the life cycle of that unit. And then we rank those customers and then break them into subsets. And we have like loyal customers and neutral customers and vulnerable. So then we measure all those impacts across the dealership. And then we study the store from like a books and a numbers perspective. So each department, we study what we call the vitals, which are the financial health of the department, the inventory health of the department, and the sales penetration health of the department. And so in a delve analysis, we have that, which is like the dollars and cents of it. And we can say, if you were at healthy, I don't want to say like goal, like some crazy eventual. If your department was healthy in inventory, or healthy in financial, or healthy in sales penetration, you would have this much more profitability, like this much more gross profit. And then that allows me to then rank every single opportunity for them and say, okay, the thing you need to do is you need to work on this first, which for a dealer is huge because there's so many fires at all times to say, hey, here's the roadmap that's going to make the biggest impact on customer experience and profitability on your culture inside your store. So do these things. So we take that, we build that then into a 6-step roadmap. And that 6-step roadmap will be things like, okay, you need to change change your staffing in your service department along with a new pay plan in order to increase the contribution. These are the exact steps to do it. This is like, and we have like, when they go into each stage of the roadmap, it's like, here's the job description written for you. Here's the meeting agenda written for you. Like, here's exactly what you're going to do. And then we're going to help you over that time, make sure that you stick to the goals.
Sick.
And so we've done that. We've done that with 18 stores now. And this store, my old store, is the store that where it's not just me and Danny handing over the report and then being the guiding person. We're actually the general managers in the store executing the things. So we get to do things that are even more out there.
Outside the box, yeah.
For me to convince a dealer principal of some crazy ass idea that I have, and I have no proof this is going to work, is really hard.
Mm-hmm.
So this was like, oh shit, we get to do our crazy ideas now.
Yeah.
And so we're putting in all sorts of really interesting things for what we think the future dealership is going to look like.
Max, I want to ask you, that's kind of like, for the audience who may not be familiar, basically, I found Max on LinkedIn, and what he's been posting of what he's been doing, and I've just kind of started reading and looking back into it. Basically, what Max has done is he's gone to his old dealership and made it a testing ground for Onyx strategies. So it's been pretty amazing, and he documents them as he goes. Why did you decide to go back into your old dealership? That's the curiosity, because you're traveling to other dealerships and you're kind of laying out a roadmap for them. What made you decide to do this? Like, hey, you know what? I'm not only going to teach you, I'm going to show you type of stuff.
Yeah. Maybe I'm a glutton for punishment. I don't know. But I had told a lot of people over the years have asked me, would you ever want to get back in dealerships? I told them emphatically, hell no. Like, nope, not going to do that. I know how hard it is. I know how difficult it is. I will help you, but I'm not doing it again. So yeah, stepping back into it is like, this is incredibly challenging. But there's a couple reasons. One of the first ones is I found out that my store, the like baby that I grew, was about to die. And that didn't sit very well. And the reason why it was happening is primarily, and there's a lot of things that have a factor in this, but I sold it to a friend of mine who was actually in my 20s, right? He was I knew he was going to take care of it. I knew how they were going to run it. They knew how it operated. They were going to keep the community going, just like I had left off. So I felt great about that. So I sold it to them. Those guys got it at the beginning of COVID and killed it. They did a great job. They then, during that time, like many dealership groups, they started buying up more and more stores. So they got big. They got about 7 stores, right? Then another larger group came in, they became a big fish. Bigger fish came along, decided to gobble them up. And that group bought at the top of COVID. And they leveraged the hell out of themselves, and they inventoried the hell out of the dealerships. And I think that they had phenomenal intentions. I think that what they were going to do, their ideas behind it were good, but the ability to pull off what at that time was 14 stores all across the country, all in this kind of niche of European motorcycle shops as well. It was like they're all trying to do what we were doing just at scale. It was not only hard to pull off, but it was at a time when sales were going down, inventory was finally coming back in, flooring interest was eating their lunch. And so it just started to crumble. Yeah. And as that crumbled, my old store was going to become part of the fallout from that. And so that was the first thing where I was like, if it's not just the building that I have attachments to, or the brand that I have attachments to, or even the employees, only one of the employees still at this dealership working. Like everybody else is new. So it wasn't even that. It was the community that I had built and supported, and the people that I still see at the grocery store when I go, and they go, "Oh man, I miss when you ran that spot." Or like, "Oh man, we don't have any more group rides anymore." I'm like, "Shit!" Like we did that. We gave people an escape from their existing life, and we made them happy. And then we weren't giving them that anymore. And suddenly their life was back to just being the shitty version before they bought their first motorcycle. Right. And so that was the moment of like, I got to support my community. I'm still a part of it. But the other part was, I've got this crazy, grandiose vision of what I think the industry should be. And it's every dealer I talk to, man, vibes with this idea, loves the idea that it should be different. You know what they don't want to do? Change the things they currently have. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm asking them crazy things. I'm asking them to like completely uproot how they do business, change every single job description. Like I was doing F20 with me. I'm asking them to like change everything and start from scratch. And I have no proof that it's going to work, but I think it's going to work based on the research I've done. And I'm trying to convince individual dealers, and they don't have enough cash flow right now to do it. You know, like that's a big thing. Nobody, like everybody's kind of struggling.
Yep.
So they can't pay to change. Even if I'm doing it for free, they can't change all the things at the time, but they're so volatile. So then I'm going to manufacturers. I'm saying, guys, like an existing manufacturer, let's fix your stores. Your stores are suffering right now. They're about to go out of business. Like, can you put us in those stores and make it happen? And they move so slow. So I'm like, shit, that's not working. So and then I go to new manufacturers who want to come into the United States. I'm saying, hey, what if we make dealerships, your first dealership should be future dealerships, not historical dealerships. Let's make the future dealership and the experience the customer really, really wants. The Onyx way. So Onyx, our brand stands for ownership experience. It's all focused on improving the ownership experience, trickles down everything else we need to. So, it's been, I think people are excited. They're engaged. They want to do it. We've got all these tracks floating around that are waiting for signatures with manufacturers and all these other people, but nobody's willing to just like say, let's do it. Like, let's just give it a shot. So I contacted, so the guy, the big fish dealership group that bought the store from my buddy, basically gave it back to him and was like, sorry, I broke your toy. And my buddy is the landlord of this business now. He built the building. Right? He bought the building from my family. So now he's got a tenant in his building that can't pay rent.
Right.
So he's like, shit, not only do I have a tenant that can't pay rent, but like, I've got this failing business in here that like I know how to run, but I've got nobody to run it. Like the general manager had quit. That like the staff is all leaving because they're all terrified.
Jeez.
So I went to him and said, hey man, if you're planning on closing this thing anyway, just give me a little bit of time. Give me a chance to turn it back around. And he gave me 90 days to get it to break even. So this store, when I got in, we're a month in now, or a month and 6 days in. When I got in, the store was losing $50,000 a month.
Damn.
Yeah, not good. And that is like for a rolling 12 months. That's not just a bad month. Every single month they lost $50,000, at least $50,000. So the idea was like, shit, that's a big. Can I do the things that I'm trying to convince other dealerships of? Like, try this, it's going to work. If I don't feel like I can step into my old dealership that I know and actually make the thing happen, then I can't tell other people this shit's going to work. So this was like, I'm going to step in, we're going to make a roadmap, we're going to start executing on the roadmap, and we're going to see if we can turn this thing around and get it break even. If it stays break even, then if we break even in September, this dealership stays open and we keep moving it forward. And then, and so I'm actually stepping out at that point, and we're going to find a general manager and place them. So we're getting all that ready as part of our plan of like, I'm not going to be the GM of this store forever. I'm here for 90 days to do a turnaround, and I'm going to place somebody into that spot for the turnaround, or after the turnaround.
Gotcha.
So
Max,
that's why we do
what
it.
you're doing is so cool, and I'm curious for a detail. Can you share one specific result or insight that you've seen so far that would make any dealership owner perk up?
Oh shit. Yeah. Okay. So, well, I'll tell you the bad news first. We'll start with that. Month one, I just closed the books, right? We're not done yet. We had a $65,000 loss. We lost more money in this month than we had previously. I came in, I was like, I'm going to change shit. We lost more money. We sold only 8 motorcycles. This store usually selling 30 motorcycles. We sold 8 motorcycles. Now, I don't think that's an effect from what we did in the store. That's just like the neglect that's happened over time. That's why those customers weren't being nurtured. They weren't being brought in. Then so that's this first month in, it's getting worse before it gets better. But the thing is, our goals in that roadmap, the roadmap does not consist of make the net profit great. That is the result of what we do in the roadmap.
Yes.
So
like
my steps
earlier,
of the roadmap are working. Like that's what's happening. And step number 1 in ours was fixing the service contribution. And by contribution, I mean the net profit that comes out of the department that then goes toward paying the mortgage and paying general manager, paying all that stuff. Like if you look at service as its own little business, is that business net profitable? So when I walked in, this store's service department, which this really is like a super gut punch. My service department was perfect. And I say that looking back on, I'm sure there was problems back then, but it was a well-oiled machine. The service department I stepped back into, the exact same one I built, but run by someone else for 6 years, had a contribution of negative 5.4%. So to translate that, that means that for every dollar of labor that comes in, it costs them $1.05 to make that labor, like to sell that labor. So they were losing money constantly. The service department, which is insane, the service department lost $24,000 over a rolling 12 months. Like, didn't make any money. It costs them to have a service department.
Was that because of mistakes on repairs, or was it because of parts being used that aren't calculated into the repair prices?
All of it.
All of it.
All of it. It was that. It was a total mismanagement. It was no recollection, no realization that the technicians are our inventory. They create the inventory that we sell, and the way that you manage that inventory really matters. And the way that you, like, what work are you giving to the shop? And like, you know, the whole concept of W time, so many stores really lean so heavily on, well, when the techs don't have work, I have them clean the shop and pay them for it. Like, cool. There are instances when that is applicable. That was happening here, like nonstop. So it's just like, gosh, the culture was so bad that just everybody was just draining the bank account. But it was, then there was no adults here. There's nobody like paying attention to what's going on, how it should happen. I don't think it was done out of malice. I think it was done out of a lack of understanding how to run a dealership, like what's important of the dealership and what you have to do to actually make a dealership operate. So anyway, I bring that up because step one was we need to fix the service contribution. We're going to get in the right direction. The goal should be 45%, 45 cents every dollar considered net profit. Once you pay all the payroll of service, once you pay all the shop expenses, that kind of stuff. In 1 month, we got that to 38%. So we made $10,000 in net profit just from the service department in one month. That's not huge, but we made more money in this 1 month of turnaround from the service department than we had in the past 12 months, or probably longer. I think we had lost in that.
That's wild.
That is just a matter of stepping in and saying, oh, guys, like, these are the dials you have to turn. You're turning the wrong dials. Like, these are the moves you need to make. And that was the great feeling that took place over the last few days of like, shit, yeah, it's working.
All right,
and
killer.
All the other ones are in place. Like, they're on their way. We're going to have proof behind each one of them. And as we do it, I'll be posting on LinkedIn. I'll be writing about it on Powersports Business. Like, those will be shared. But there's gut punches every day.
Yeah, of course.
Gut punches.
Number one is you're walking into a business that you haven't had your hands on in 6-7 years. So, I mean, that's a big thing. So, I mean, you're basically starting from scratch with everything. So it's got to be what do you want to show from all these tests that you're doing, number one? And how do you see Onex shaping the next generation of dealership leaders?
Even as a kid in this industry, I recognize my partner, Danny, and I talked about this all the time when he was working with me and even after. My goal, my like big life goal would be to change the way that our industry operates. And that is like such a huge, audacious thing to say. But working in the dealership, you see all the great things about the industry and all the, how incredible being a motorcyclist is. And not even just motorcycle. Let's just say to be the leader of a lifestyle for people to be able to say, you know what, my day job sucks. My day is not enjoyable. I don't like the person I'm married to, like whatever thing is like really bogging someone down. For them to say, you know what, I can be something different. And we're the industry that allows people to like live out this different, better, like idealized versions of themselves. And so I see that as a dealer, but then I see what it takes to be a dealer. I'm like, the amount of meetings that I'm in with OEMs about all the crazy ass programs, all the things they got to do. And then like how the service department has to work with customers and how disjointed all of the things are. Like all I want to do is give people the lifestyle that they want. But to pull that off is crazy complicated and very, very difficult. It shouldn't be this hard. And so, we think we've got these people who are motorcyclists and are excited and they want to work at a dealership, and they come join, and they're into it, and they get burnt out in 6 months because they realize that working at a dealership sucks.
Right.
It gets really hard all the time. And yes, you get to ride cool motorcycles and you get to do cool stuff, but it is a hard job. And if you do it perfectly, maybe you'll make a little bit of profit at the end. But if you screw up at all, like especially right now, you're not staying open. And people have built their entire lives around it, like I did too. And like, I feel like someone needs to be like the beacon of, all right, guys, if we're going to change this stuff, then I know for a fact, I can't change everything for this entire industry. I can't make the entire industry different, but what I can probably do is help get people together and say, what's the ultimate mission? Like, what's the goal we're all going to? And how can we work together to make that goal? And that's ultimately what I want to do. I'm looking to find dealers that agree with this idea of what we can make a lifestyle driven business like, because those are the ones that can test things and iterate and try things quickly. And like, I'm building software now because I had to figure out nobody else is doing it, so let's do it. So like, I've got a software tool that equity mines an entire customer base and then helps us understand how to allow people to swap units. So like one thing, actually, we're launching it this week in the store. I'm really excited. Imagine that as a customer, as an owner, you've owned your motorcycle for 3.5 years. What do you ride? Sorry, what do you ride?
I have a couple. I've got a Harley, say a Road King.
Okay, so you got a Road King, right? Let's imagine you've had that Road King for 3.5 years, that 3.3 year area, right? You don't recognize, if you finance it, you're maybe not recognizing like where you're at in your equity point, but imagine you get a text message from your, sales guy that says, hey, I just noticed that your bike is worth a pretty good bit and you can come in and swap that thing out for a brand new one. No money down, exact same monthly payment. And so that's what we've built. Actually, I don't know if I can try and pull it up on my phone.
Yeah, that's killer.
That's the tool that we built. And so that message comes through.
Okay, so your statistics come from people who have bought from the dealership, and then because the statistics show that most people hold their bikes 3.5 years, but yet still have a note on it for another 1.5 years, that it's easier to be able to take their unit that's 3.5 years old, use it as cash, keep the same payments going, and add on another 3.5 years onto the note, right?
This guy right here, this guy right here would get a text message that says, hey, you own a 2023 Trident 660. Your swap value is $3,700. You have $3,300 in equity. So basically he scrolls through and my sales guy selects different bikes that would fall into that exact same category. So you can go,
that's a game
I can get
changer.
a used GS. I can click on that for the exact same $181 a month.
Dude, that's
and so
sick.
then it explains how it all works. And then here we get to say, oh, you know what? If you're into putting maybe a little bit more money down, we could drag that over. We can make that a Ducati for you,
right?
For another $87 a month. And so
that's cool.
This idea of like the concept of, yes, we got to keep a customer until 3 years, but then how do we re-engage them? Like that's a tool that does it. And then all the other little touch points are all tools that do that. So what's cool is I literally wrote this code last night. Like we're writing this stuff, we're iterating it as we go. We're sending out one to a customer and getting feedback on like, did it work? We can see how many times they open it. You can see how long they look at it. We go, oh, he went back to it 3 times last night at midnight. Like that guy's laying in bed looking at this motorcycle.
Dude.
That's going to sell this motorcycle. And so that's the kind of stuff that we're working on. Like, when I go to a dealership and I tell them like, hey man, there's these really cool ideas they have. They go, oh, that sounds great. Good for you. Let me know how it works. I'm like, well, I'm gonna go do it now. So I'm hoping that I find more dealers who want to try stuff and are proactively engaging and saying like, hey, this needs to improve. And I go, okay, cool, try this now. And then I want to do that. And then I want manufacturers like to recognize that like we're creating a movement. We're creating a movement from the dealerships to say, this is what we need and want. And that has to then change the momentum of the light speeds of the world, and like
all of the
and suppliers of the world.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it is boiling the ocean to try and change this whole thing, but somebody's got
and there's nothing on the market like it right now. What you're doing?
Nothing does that.
Nothing
in the market does what I'm doing right now.
Sweet.
Yeah. And that's just one of them, dude. The tool we're using to present numbers, oh my God, it's so cool. Now I can send you a text message and it shows you your monthly payment, all that payment. You scroll down, it'll show you all the accessories you can add and remove. And then at the very bottom, you get to slide your down payment and like how good your credit is and how long you want your term. It all shows you right there. So you get you on your own, sitting on the toilet at home, go, ooh, I can afford that for this much. You submit it to me, and then I get my team working on how we actually make it happen. We tell you.
That is so cool.
I think the psychology of selling and the psychology of customers buying, it's still identical to what it was before.
That's right.
But customers don't want to buy the ways that we've been teaching it for the last 20 years. They're not going to stick there with
the low ball trade-ins with the all that stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, man, for sure. That's freaking awesome, dude.
Yeah,
man,
so
Max, what you're doing is incredible for the industry as a whole. I mean, it's going to snowball effect, I would imagine. And as you show the proof in the pudding, it'll gain more and more traction. Thank you so much for sharing with us what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm so excied to see where it goes.
I know where it's going to go.
What
It's going to go right here with
man.
us. We'll talk after.
Max, where can people find you? Where's the best place to keep up with Max Materne?
So some of the best places would be, you can go on our website and sign up for our newsletter. That's probably the easiest. You can also just reach out to me. You can find my email on that. But our website is Ownex, OWNEX.io. So OWN, so like I said, ownership experience, Ownex.io. You can find us on X. I'm actually documenting, just like I'm doing on LinkedIn. I'm documenting this on X at Ownex_IO. I'm posting it on LinkedIn. So if you find me at Max Materne on LinkedIn, you can follow it there. And then I'm writing much longer form articles once a month that are coming out in Powersports Business. So following those are great. I mean, I have to finish up my next episode 3's article tomorrow. But yeah, all of that stuff is really, I'm trying to get it out as much as we possibly can, because
you're doing a great job, brother. You're doing a good job, because it's
a lot of people interested.
Very informative, very cool, and it's real and organic. It doesn't sound scripted or any of that stuff. So excellent job with that, man. Hey, listen,
let's hope it works.
It will, man. It will. It will.
It's going to succeed. It's going to be
man. I can see, Ben and I can both see the passion in your eyes, man, when you talk. That's something that it's not gonna work. So keep up that amazing work, brother. Thanks for taking the time to come on our show, explaining what you do. I think you are a game changer in this industry. We need more minds like yours to help the dealers at this point in time, because we are having an influx of shops closing. So it's very important that we keep this alive. And guys, follow him and check him out. One of the great minds of our industry, brother. Thanks a lot for coming on the show, man.
Thank you. And that means a lot. That means a lot. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks,
and I appreciate that. I just want more minds like mine to join in this effort. That's the real objective here. So
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Max. Appreciate you, man.